Hi everyone, welcome to Aussizz Migration and Education Conclave 2021. So our today's first session is on social work and PR pathways. This session is going to be presented by Ms. Mechelle Orias and Ms. Prabhjot Kaur. Ms. Mechelle Orias is a QAAC certified senior education consultant with specialized skills in helping international students take up social work and community welfare courses. She has more than 5 years of experience as a qualified education advisor and has helped countless students launch their courses and careers in social work stream. And after following this session, we'll have a migration session with Ms. Prabhjot Kaur, who is a lawyer and a migration agent with Aussizz Group Sydney, a persuasive speaker with a keen interest in guiding international students towards the right path. She is highly skilled in immigration law and practice, an expert immigration lawyer trained in wide range of visa categories. She has a strong desire and passion to help international students achieve the best migration outcome. I just want to let everyone know that we are recording this session today. And if you have any questions at the end of the session, you'll have a chance for those questions to be answered in a personalized way. Along with this session, if you have any questions, please feel free to put those questions in the comment section. At the end of the session, if the presenters have time, the last 10 minutes, they will be taking up those questions and answering them one-to-one. But for a most personalized approach, please tune into our dedicated Q&A session at the end of today, which is 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. Melbourne time. Our experts will be waiting to take your questions. Thank you. Let's start with the education session with Mechelle Orias.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning to other participants wherever you are right now. I am Mechelle Orias, one of the education consultants here at Aussizz Group here in Melbourne College office. I am a Filipino by nationality, but I am helping every nationalities who wants to of course, seeking our support. So for today, I will be talking about the social work and its pathways, which I will be joined later on with one of our migration agents, Prabhjot Kaur. So social works. Many of you have heard about social works, but what is really social work? So social work, when it comes to career pathway, is a practice-based profession that promotes social change, social development and cohesion, empowerment of people, and empowerment of community. It involves understanding of human development, behavior, and social, economic, and cultural institutions and interactions. So basically, it provides advice and support and resources to individuals, families to help them solve their problems. Social workers or social workers with specific groups of clients, including children, elderly and families in crisis, and help them to solve problems they are facing. So as a social worker, you can also be working in the hospital area, in school or nursing home or anywhere in the community. In hospital, you can provide counseling, debriefing for patients, families, and staff. You can coordinate as well as the safety of the patient, discharges from hospital system. And for the school-related matter, when it comes to social workers, they are the trained mental health professionals who can assist with mental health concerns, behavioral concerns, positive behavioral supports, academic and classroom supports, with working with the parents and the teachers and administrators as well. So in aged care or nursing home as well, you can give as a social worker, you are helping with the residents in the nursing home by identifying their psychosocial, mental, and emotional needs, along with providing, developing, aiding in the access of service to needs. So basically, you can be a social worker anywhere in the community as long as you are involving with the people in the community. So social worker as a career pathway, so you are, of course, closely working with people in the community and their social needs, especially those who are vulnerable in the community. AASW, or the Australian Association of Social Works, is the professional representative body of social workers in Australia. So right now we are facing a pandemic, okay? So but not many people are working in social work. There are only less people or advocates to be working in a social work or in a community base. But this kind of job is quite personally and professionally rewarding. It is rewarding in the sense that every time you are giving support or hand or assistance to the people, especially to the most vulnerable in the community, it is quite rewarding. So why not join this growing community sector, which is quite rewarding both personally and professionally. So let's discuss how to become a social worker in the future. So there are courses related to social work that you can do, which could make you eligible social worker. So let's talk about the Bachelor of Social Work. So what are the entry requirements? So the Bachelor of Social Work, it is a 4 years duration or equivalent to 208 weeks. It has a minimum entry requirements. Of course, number one, you should have equivalent or completion of your year 12, depending on your background or origin of your country where you finished your senior high school or year 12 equivalent. So, or you can be packaged with the foundation course before you can do the Bachelor of Social Work. So, and there's also an English requirements, which is IELTS or PTE. PTE at least 58, no bands less 50, or in IELTS 6.5, no bands less than 6. But there will be a possible changes which announced by AASW that in year 2022, the English requirement would be changed. So basically, if you enroll in March 2022 intake for the Bachelor of Social Work, the English requirement would be in IELTS equivalent to all 7 each band, and for PTE it will be equivalent for all 65 each bands. But if you are getting admission for this July 2021 intake, you can still have the lesser English requirement, which only 6.5 equivalent to IELTS, no less than below 6. So this is the best opportunity for you to do the course in July if you don't have that much English requirement to meet the criteria. So what are the education providers for the Bachelor of Social Work? So we have some providers in Victoria, which is commonly the ACAB or the Navitas organization, Monash University, Victoria University, Deakin, Stotts College, and Latrobe University, among others. For New South Wales, we have Charles Sturt University, Wollongong, of course, Navitas as well, Australian Catholic University, and the new University of New England. For Tasmania, we only have one provider, which is the University of Tasmania. So if you happen to be in Tasmania, there's no other option but the University of Tasmania. If you happen to be in West Australia, so we have 2 universities, the Curtin University and the Edith Cowan University. For South Australia, we only have 2 universities offering the course, which is the University of South Australia and the Flinders University. And for the Northern Territory, we only have one option, which is the Charles Darwin University. And if you happen to be in the ACT or in Canberra, there is only Australian Catholic University. For Queensland, we have some options with James Cook University, ACU, Queensland University, and ACU. So ranges of fees for the Bachelor of Social Works. So again, this is equivalent to 4 years or 208 weeks. It ranges from 84,800 to 108, depending on which provider. So basically, for 1 year, it ranges from 21,000 to 27,000. It depends which state and it depends which provider. So this is just only the range. So Bachelor of Social Works, some other universities or providers, they run the program with 2 semesters, which is commonly February and or July intake. And for some other providers, they run the program for trimesters. So meaning to say, either February, July, and or September. So trimester. There should be, to be a full-time student, there should be 8 subjects per year. So some other providers, they run to meet the 8 subjects per year. Either you can do in 1 semester 3 subjects. In the second semester, you can do 3 subjects. And in the last semester, you can do 2 subjects, as long as the total is 8 subjects per year to be a full-time student. And for other universities or provider, they run it for 4 subjects in 1 semester, 3 subjects in one semester and 1 subject in the last semester, because while doing one subject, you have to do a full-time placement. So placement, basically, you have to do it, when you say full-time placement, you have to do it Monday to Friday. So it's like a full-time um, placement work hours in which you have to meet at least 980 hours of work placements to complete the course. So that's the Bachelor of Social Works. Now let's move forward with the Master of Social Works. Since Master of Social Works, only the duration of this is 2 years. Now who can do the Master of Social Works? For the Bachelor of Social Works, if you just completed your high school or senior high school or year 12 equivalent with a foundation course to qualify, then, but for the Master of Social Work, if you already have completed any degree, as long as there's cognate discipline in humanities, community work, and health-related field, psychology background, sociology or social science and human services background, you can do Master of Social Works. Okay, so again, the English requirement until July 2021, it remains the same. PTE 58, no bands less than 50, and for IELTS 6.5, no bands less than 6. But again, as mentioned earlier, for the 2022 intake, AASW will be implementing the all 7 English equivalent for IELTS and all 65 equivalent for PTE for the English requirements. Okay, so again, this is the best opportunity for you to take the chance. If you don't have the English requirement yet, you can do the Master of Social Works in July. We still have time to help you. For the fees, it will be ranging from 47,400 to 62,500, depending on the providers and depending in which state. So every state has different of ranges of the fees. So the common providers of the Master of Social Works in Victoria, we have ACAP or the Navitas, La Trobe University, University of Melbourne, Monash University, RMIT, and Federation University, just to name some. And for the New South Wales, we have the options Navitas, ACU, University of Wollongong, Federation University, University of New England, and again for Tasmania, having only one university, so it's always the only option, the University of Tasmania. And for other states, we have the West Australia, South Australia CDU. CDU, only one university option, Charles, the CDU. For the ACT, one option as well, so which is the Australian Catholic University. So basically, wherever or which states do you prefer to go to for study for the social works, we have a lot of options to offer for you. So social work as a career pathway. So again, it is advisable for you to study in a university which offers the course of social works, should be accredited by the ASSW for you to qualify for the skills assessment, which will be discussed later on by our migration agent. And for the skills assessment, of course, there's a minimum band requirement, which is 7 for IELTS only, and 980 hours work placement as a social worker. And of course, the placement professional is incorporated as part of the course. So salary ranges occupation. The roles would be the social worker, community health center coordinator. You can be a youth worker, drug and alcohol worker, homelessness policy officer. So there are a lot of kind of works related to social works, and it has a very rewarding and very enticing range of salary, which could range from 64,000 to 95,000 annually. How is that? So it's quite very enticing if you are aiming for a greater options in the future. So it's quite very rewarding. So basically, especially during the pandemic, there will be a lot of social workers to be in need in Australia itself. So it is projected, as you can see in the graph, from year 2019, there were 40,000 social workers, and it is expected to grow to 56,000 social workers projections in the next 5 years to 2024. So this is an ongoing growing and in-demand sector nowadays in Australia. So that's why next to nursing, social works is a good option to go to. Average income, as mentioned to you, this is quite impressive to have minimum at least 1,800 for a weekly income. I think I want to be a social worker from now. So yeah, this is quite very much enticing. I wish I have done this course. Or well, there's no. It's better late than never, right? So I can do. You can do. We can all be a social worker. There's no. It's better late than never. So again, if you are aiming for a good income in the future, so social work is the course to be. Right. So for the job market share, so across state in Australia, so as you can see in the graph, Victoria has the most numbers of social workers right now, followed with the New South Wales with 28%, and Queensland, and we have so the least number of social workers are in ACT. So when we say less number of social workers, that means that will give you more opportunity to belong in the community because there are only less people. So it will give you more chance to be part in that community compared to the congested areas already. So if you happen to be in Victoria, then you can be part of the Victoria Community Social Worker. But again, if you go to somewhere else where there are only less advocates or social workers, then that would be your best opportunity as well, and which could lead you eventually for a brighter perspective when it comes to residency option, which will be discussed with our migration agent. So the role of social workers during pandemic, somehow we're not happy about the pandemic, but it gives somehow a good options for social workers during this time because post COVID-19, mental health issues would be alarming health issues in Australia, in which the Australian government requires a lot of social workers. So this is the best opportunity for social workers to be part of this growing community where you can be, you can work along with the health professionals who are deeply concerned about the effects of the virus. So many of us lost their battles and the COVID. We lost our loved ones, we lost our friends, we lost our families, many lost their jobs. So it's affecting the general wellness of the people, their mental health. So which the social worker could be, could join and help support the Australian government, to be part of the growing social work community. So that's why this is the best option for us, a career pathway in the coming future or this during pandemic. So social workers, it's quite highly in demand right now because it plays a vital role in the society, especially in terms of public crisis and in national emergencies like COVID-19. So again, because of this COVID-19, social workers will be in demand. So Australia will need more social workers in the coming years, and this is a good opportunity for the future pathways for you if you are seeking for residency here in Australia. Okay, so I guess that would be it for social worker. If you have any questions, or you can give a review for this event, so you can follow the link as per in the slides. For any further or any questions, we're happy to answer you after the presentation of our migration agent, which will be presented by Prabhjot Kaur.
Thank you, Mechelle, for an amazing session about education on social work. So now we'll have the migration session with Ms. Prabhjot Kaur. Ms. Prabhjot Kaur, I'll just give her introduction again. She is a registered lawyer and migration agent with Aussizz Group Sydney with her MARA number 1808188. A persuasive speaker with a keen interest in guiding international students towards the right path. She is highly skilled in immigration law and practice. An expert immigration lawyer trained in wide range of visa categories, she has a strong desire and passion to help international students achieve the best migration outcome. So I'll hand it over to Prabhjot to give her presentation now. And meanwhile she's sharing her screen, I'll just request the participants with us. If you have any questions, please you can put it in the chat box. And after this session is over, at the end, last 10 minutes, we'll be taking up those questions one by one if we have time. But then we do have a Q&A session at the end of the day today at 5:30. So more personalized way, if you want your questions to be answered, we can help during that session as well. But meanwhile, please feel free to put your questions in the comments box. Hand it over to you, Prabhjot.
Hi, thank you so much, Saru. Hi, guys. This is Prabhjot Kaur, as Saru has already introduced me. So I'm a registered migration agent working at Aussizz at Sydney branch. So yes, as Mechelle has already explained us about the career pathways, about the courses regarding bachelor's and master's both. And yes, if you are indeed interested in community services and want to be a social worker, this particular session is definitely for you guys. Now, when we talk about the studies, or whenever I'm discussing any pathways, whether it's social work or any other occupation, what comes first in my mind, or what I want to let my clients know, is that how do we get started with the things? I've done studies, now how do I get started with the things? What should be my first step? How should I go about it? Now, we will be discussing obviously social work, but then how does it work? Now, first thing first, your right occupation, bachelor's or master's, then choosing the occupation, that this is the occupation I'm going for. So social worker, the first thing we need to know is, if we are choosing the social worker, what's the code? So the NSCO code for the social worker is 2725511, and it is on long-term list. So basically there are two types of lists, short-term list and medium to long-term list. So good thing about choosing this occupation is that this particular occupation is on long-term list. That means you have more options to go for, unlike having your occupation on short-term list. That means your occupation is open for 189, 190, and 491, and which is what we'll be discussing in detail, that how does these occupations and how does these lists work. Now, when we talk about the availability, as I've said, this is on long-term list. We have got more than one visa options available for social workers. So you definitely have a PR pathway, you don't have to worry. And because we are in a situation where most of our people are working from home, and they definitely want to know that if they indeed decide to go for this course, what their future prospect hold, what they can do in future, and what PR pathways do they have. So definitely it's open for 189 skilled independent visas, 190 skilled nominated visas, 491 skilled work regional based visas, which is state or territory nominated. And then in 491, we also have the family sponsored stream as well. Then yes, it is open for 407, which is training visa. 485 temporary graduate, because sometimes we do need provisional skill assessment for the purpose to be just to make sure that whether our the course which I have completed, whether that qualifies me to be a social worker or no. So yes, that is when it helps to get the provisional skill assessment for 485 visa. 482 visa and 186 and 494, definitely that comes into picture when we are planning to go for employer sponsor visas. And for these types of visas, you have to have certain number, or the number of years of experience to be qualified for these visas. So we're not going to discuss about the employer sponsor visas, but we are going to discuss and concentrating on the skill visas today. So how does it work? Now that I've completed my bachelor's or master's in social work, what's the first step? The very first step is the skill assessment, which is what I have mentioned in here. Now, once we talk about the skill assessment, I'll be discussing how does it work, how we can get the skill assessment done. Once my skill assessment is completed, the next step would be lodging the expression of interest. Now, what exactly is expression of interest? Expression of interest is kind of, you can say, whereby you kind of request the department, hey, I've got my degree done, I've got it assessed, I'm a professional social worker, it has been assessed by the assessing body. I want to lodge my expression of interest, invite me to lodge the visa. Once you get the invitation, that is exactly when you lodge your visa application. So 3 steps, no matter what occupation you're going for, whether it's a social worker, engineer, IT, whatsoever. These are the main 3 steps which you have to follow. Now, first step, which is skill assessment. Now, once we complete our course, the assessing body for the social worker is AASW, which is what mentioned by Mechelle as well, which is Australian Association of Social Workers. This particular occupation is assessed by this assessing body. Now, what are the requirements? How do we get started? Once you finish your course, there are two pathways. Either you have studied your course or completed your course in Australia, or for those people or students who have studied outside Australia. Now, if you have studied in Australia, make sure you complete your course from AASW accredited. So basically, a course has to be accredited by this authority. Or if in case it's not, then well, I would say that it would be very difficult for you to get the the positive assessment. So make sure if you are going to invest your time and your money, and whosoever college or the university you're choosing, make sure you only choose the accredited the course, which will definitely help you getting your assessment easier. Now, if you're an international student and if you have done your studies outside Australia, then what are the requirements and how do we get started or get our skill assessment done? In that case, there are different criteria. So basically, criteria for assessment would be, there are 5 criteria which must be or I would say all of them should be met. And the very first criteria is that your qualification must be specific qualification in social work. That means bachelor's or higher, which is obviously me and Mechelle, both of us. I've told you that bachelor's in social work or master's in social work. Second, the qualification must be regarded as a professional social work qualification in the country of training. The third, the learning outcomes must be comparable to ASW accredited social work qualification. Now, when we do the course, make sure your qualification includes 980 hours of placement, which is very important, guys. Even if you're doing the accredited course, this should be there for sure. The fifth criteria is currently when we talk about the the English part of the assessment, as in what are the requirements when I'm going for the assessment, what should be my band? The AASW, they only accept the academic IELTS test, and your score should be at least 7 and overall 7. They have given you option that if in case you cannot get your 7 score in one sitting, you can go for the second sitting, but then yes, make sure that your overall band is 7 and nothing less than 7. Now, there are a few exemptions to it. The exemption is only that if you have successfully done your tertiary qualification in the English-speaking countries, which are Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and Republic of Ireland, South Africa, United Kingdom, or United States of America. In that case, you have the option, or they might give you the exemption. Now, when I launch my skill assessment, what are the fees requirements for international social worker qualification? If you're outside Australia, the fees is $1,800. And if you're inside Australia and then getting your social work degree assessed, which you have gained from outside Australia, that's $1,980. Now, if you have AASW accredited social work qualification and you're outside Australia, your fees would be $363.64. And if you are within Australia, then $400. So similarly with 485 visas, and if you want to go for the provisional skill assessment, it's $200, and then if you're within Australia, $220. Now, we must know that the skill assessment, once we get it done, it's only valid for 3 years for the skill visas purpose. So maybe you might have to get it, reissued. And if you're going for the renewal, then yes, outside Australia it's $150. Inside Australia it's $165. Now, what's the duration? Once I launch my skill assessment, how long does it take? Well, for social worker graduates, it's 3 to 4 weeks. Temporary graduates, 3 to 4 weeks. International qualification, 12 to 15 weeks. And if we're going for the skill employment application, 3 to 4 weeks, and renewal just takes 2 weeks. Now, skill assessment is done. So my first step is done. As I've mentioned before, that we need to know what are these steps. So when we talk about the PR pathways, The very first step, skill assessment. Now I've completed my degree, skill assessment is done. We have come to the second stage. Now here I'm putting my expression of interest. Now if I'm putting my expression of interest for 189 visa, I need to be sure that I have got minimum points, which is 65. So 65 is the minimum requirement, or I would say that eligibility criteria to lodge your expression of interest. And if I'm going for 190 visa, then I can only be on 60 points because state gives me 5 points. Here I can be on 60 plus 5 points will be given to me by state. So that becomes 65. Again, I am meeting the eligibility criteria. Now 491 visa, which is provisional visa leading to the PR. Here, if you have 50 points, you might still be eligible or qualified to get the invitation. Just bare minimum 50 points may be enough, but then the state needs to give you 15 points. So 50 plus 15 would make it 65. Hence, minimum requirement 65 points. I have met that. Now, once I got my skill assessment, I'm lodging my expression of interest. What's the next step? All you have to do is wait. Now, depending on what visa subclass you're targeting, if you're targeting a 189 visa, then there's nothing much you can do. But yes, definitely work on your points. That means maybe just 65 points might not be good enough, because here people are sitting on high points, 95, 100 points, and there are some occupations whereby people are sitting on 100 points and they're not getting the invitation. That is when I always guide my clients and my viewers that try to target state nominations or state sponsorship visas, because that will definitely benefit you. Why? First, targeting, for example, 491 visa will help you to go for all three options, because if you're not in regional, that is 491 visa. 491 visa would never be your option. That means you're cutting off your option by yourself. But if I'm in regional and trying to target 491, then I have my available 189, 190, and 491. So I've got three options available with me. So why would I just go for 189 and not go for 491? So smart option or smart move would be that try to target 491. That will give you three options available. And also on 491, you don't have to be sitting on very high points, because 491 is based on state sponsorship, whereby if you are able to fulfill the requirements of the state, you might not even have to do many things. Because I've got examples, my clients have received invitation on bare 50, 60 points as well, because I might not be able to do my, say for example, NATI or English or PY, because here state wants that if you are able to fulfill the requirements of the states, we are happy to sponsor you. Now, if you're moving to regional or you're targeting the state, then obviously state will definitely have some requirements and will definitely have some criteria to be fulfilled. They won't give you 15 points of 5 points free of cost, isn't it? So now that I've put in my expression of interest, and if I want to target states, especially 190, or I would say 491, I need to see what are the requirements of these states. So we'll go one by one and see what each and every state wants, what are their criteria. Because, for example, if I'm in New South Wales, and in case let's say social worker is not even open here and it's open in ACT, then before even I make a move, I need to know what are the requirements of ACT. So which is very important. Now, once, as I've mentioned, skill assessment is done, expression of interest is, I've lost expression of interest and I'm waiting. Then there are three types of visas, which is what I've explained to you. 189, which is permanent visa, and this is the skilled independent, which does not require sponsorship by a relative or state treasury government. The second visa option, which is again, I've explained to you, which is 190. This is also permanent visa, and this is the state nomination where you get 5 points from the state. 491 visa is provisional based visa, which could lead to PR, provided if you are able to fulfill the criteria of the states. And this visa is not permanent, therefore this visa is only valid for 5 years. But then you don't have to be waiting for 5 years. Just after completing 3 years on 491, you can move to the PR pathway and you can get a 191 visa. For now, a 191 visa is not into the picture. So the requirement for now is that once you are on 491, You live, work, study in regional area for 3 years, and you could qualify for 191 visa. Isn't that great, guys? If, say, for example, if I'm struggling and I can't get get onto the points, for example, 95 or 100 or 90 points, it's very easy. I just go in any regional area, fulfill the requirements of the state, and boom, you get 491 visa in 3 years, and you get PR straight away. Now, these are the 3 types of visas. Now we need to understand what are the requirements of each and every state. Now we'll go alphabetically, starting from ACT, Canberra. For 190, see, before even I get started with any of the states, I would like to mention here that because the financial year has ended, so whatever requirements I'm going to be explaining you or telling you at this stage might not be the same, because as soon as we have new financial year starting soon in July, the criteria might change. You might not see the same criteria at all, or they might be keeping the same criteria. So I'm gonna be briefing you regarding the criteria of each and every state, so that you're familiar with what the state has to, or what states are providing to us, what option do we have in case I plan to move to ACT or NSW or Western Australia, South Australia, whatever states you feel like, or maybe if you are currently living in those states as well. Now, key point again, if possible, try to target regional. Reason I've explained to you. Once again, I'm telling you, first reason, definitely you don't have to be sitting on high points if you're targeting regional. Second, going to regional or targeting 491 means you have got all 3 options available for you. But in case if you're not targeting 491 at all, or you're not in regional, that option is crossed out. You do not have that option. That means you're left with 189 and 190. Now 189, well, we know and we are very well aware that not many invitation rounds are happening. 190, again, the priority they are giving to IT nurses and on those. So why would I not try to target 491, and why would I just be sitting in, for example, in the city and wasting my time, right? Now, okay, guys, so let's get started with ACT first. For 190, our occupation is definitely there on the critical list. I would say was in critical list, because as I've mentioned, most of the states, they are closed for this financial year, but then ACT could be a very good option. First, when we log or when we launch our expression of interest, when we were talking about the point system, ACT is the only state whereby your point system works differently. Apart from other states, this is the only state which has got their own point system, which is called metric system. Now, if I talk about New South Wales or Victoria, Queensland, all other states, they work differently. So how do they work? These states work on, they give you points based on your age, your education, on your study, and your English, if you've done PY, your experience and all those things. But ACT is a unique state, I would say, whereby your point system is calculated based on, if you've lived there, you get points. That means you have to be living there for 1 year. That is when you get 5 points. If you have studied there, you get points. If you've got master's degree, you get points. If you've got bachelor's degree, you get points. Your English 8 will give you 15 points. There, you do not get 20 points as compared to the other states. Other states give you 20 if you score 8, but here you get 15 points. But this is how their point system work. Even if you're living, you get points. If you work there in any occupation for 6 months, you get 5 points. So basically, this is how their point system works. But then how would I get qualify for ACT if I move on to that state? Now, I've just got down the requirements. So in brief, if your occupation is there on the critical list, you have to live and work there for 6 months, and your work must be for at least 35 hours. And should be more than 6 months and continuous. You cannot have any gap if you're working. So if I live and work there for 6 months, I could be eligible to lodge 190. It's like could be eligible, doesn't mean that you'll definitely get the the invitation. So once you're with us, we'll make sure that you fulfill the criteria and you get the invitation for 190 for ACT. Now, 491 is, as compared to 190, is bit easier, and all you have to do is live there and work there for 3 months and work for at least 20 hours. And these 3 months, it has to be continuous work. Isn't that easy, guys? That you go and live there for 3 months or 6 months and work there for 3 months or 6 months and you get 190,491. Well, it sounds easy, but then as I've mentioned that they've got their own point system, but then you have to make sure you fulfill the other criteria as well. But then yes, this is the eligibility criteria. I might be able to launch my expression of interest or my metrics point as soon as I live there and work there for 6 months or 3 months. Now NSW. So NSW and ACTs, both of them are my favorite states. Social worker, as we are just discussing at this stage, social worker, currently it was not listed in 190, but yes, definitely for 491 it was there. Now see guys, here you can see the difference. As I was just mentioning, that try to target 491. Now imagine you're in New South Wales and they open social worker just for 491 and you are sitting on say for example 70 points. So that means 189 is ruled out, you don't have that option. 190, it's not even the list. So that means imagine if you're not in regional at all, you're gone. So that's one of the other examples, which was what I was mentioning. So better to target 491. Here is the scenario, New South Wales live example. It wasn't there in the list, and thankfully it was there on the on the 491 list. So the requirements for New South Wales for 491, what were the criteria when they were inviting people? Initially, they had 3 streams, but then by 25th of March, they had closed the 3rd stream. So we were left with 2 streams, which were, they had asked that either you should be living and working in New South Wales in your nominated occupation for 1 year. So that means if I move to regional New South Wales, I have to be working as a social worker for 1 year and living and working there. And then I could qualify to launch my 491. Second stream was if I have lived and studied in New South Wales for 2 years, and this particular study has to be related to the occupation I'm choosing for. For example, let's say I'm on 485 and I couldn't get the invitation, and I decided to go on student visa and I decided to study, for example, let's say leadership and management, but I'm a social worker. What's my occupation? I'm a social worker. Well, and I think, okay, let's just study for 2 years and I might be qualifying for 491. Well, you might not be, because currently the current situation or the current requirement is you have to be living and studying for 2 years, of course, but it has to be in your nominated occupation. What's your occupation? Social worker. So leadership management is not even related, right? So yes, so this is how it works. So one more thing I would like to mention here is about stream 1. Although New South Wales did mention that you have to be living and working in your occupation for 1 year, but then as the time passed, many of the regions, so within New South Wales, there are so many regions. So we have Arana, Riverina, Northern Inland, Far South Coast. Many of these regions started to accept the applications for those people who recently moved and did not even have 1 year of experience. Yes. So I've got so many clients, they recently moved and at least had 3 months or even 2 months. I've seen people getting invitation on 2 months, 1 month as well. If they could prove they have lived and worked in their occupation, they have received the invitation. Literally, my clients have received on 55 and 60 points as well. And those occupations which were not even open for 190 or 189 as well. So I've got, retail pharmacists and accountants as well. So that is a benefit of moving to regional area. Now, they were quite strict. They wanted you to be living and working there for 1 year, but then, how they work is that they are allotted with the seats. Now, when they knew that they still left with so many seats, so they had to come down. And then what happened is they started accepting the applications with less than 1 year of experience, with 2 months, 1 year, 1 month as well. So that's New South Wales, could be very good state. Now, Northern Territory. So basically how it works is, guys, most of the states, they'll have different options. They'll have option for the graduates. They'll have option for those who are living and working there. So most of the states will either tell you to, live and study or live and work. Now, if I talk about Northern Territory, they have definitely graduate stream for 190 and 491 as well. For 190, what do they want? That you should be at least studying in Northern Territory for 2 years. And then after finishing your course, you should be residing or continue to reside there for 6 months after your course. And you also have to demonstrate that you are genuine and sustained, you have made genuine and sustained efforts to obtain employment. For 491, if I talk about the graduates, now how it works is, for example, I go there, I study there for 2 years, but I'm not left with another 6 months to go and live and show my efforts to get my employment and stuff, but I've just finished. So they might not be considered, or I would say they will not consider you for 190. They might be considering for 491. So all I have to do is go there and live and study for two years. Now, for Northern residents who are living there for 2 years and also working there for 2 years, you have a chance for 190. And for 491, applicants who are living in Northern Territory prior to July 2020, all you have to show is that you have lived there for 6 months, and if you have worked there for 6 months in your nominated occupation, you could qualify for 491. From last July 2020, they have made certain changes, which is that you should be residing there for 12 months in Northern Territory and prove that you have worked there for 6 months and your employment should be full-time. So I'm discussing the states where social worker was open. Now, talking about the Queensland, currently they are only inviting people who are working or their occupation is their priority in the PMSO list, which is Priority Migration Skill Occupation list, for both 190 and 491 guys. So next, South Australia. Well, could be a very good state as well if you're planning to move there and study. So again, as I've mentioned, 2 pathways for most of the states, graduate pathways, and if you're living and working there. For graduate pathways, they've mentioned that make sure that you study at least for 46 weeks and it should be 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐬𝐢𝐳𝐳 registered, and 50% of your course should be completed in South Australia, and you should have resided for at least 1 year in South Australia, and that should be for continuous period of 1 year. And obviously you'll have to meet the course requirements there. And to be eligible for 491 and 190, South Australian graduates must be currently working in their nominated occupation or close related occupation for 3 months in South Australia. If we talk about 491, most of the requirements are the same as 190. So you have to be living and studying there for at least 1 year. And your course should be 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐬𝐢𝐳𝐳 registered, and 50% of your course should be completed in South Australia. And here as well, to be eligible for 491 and 190, South Australian graduates must be currently working in their nominated occupation for at least 3 months. Now, if you're not working as a social worker, but as a, let's say you can't find a job as a social worker, but found a job as a care worker or support worker, then they have their criteria. They want you to be working at least 18 months. Or if you're working in Greater Adelaide, and if you're working in Outer Regional, then at least 12 months. Now, if you are working there, then for social worker, because how South Australia is working these days is that for each and every occupation, they have specified that these are the number of years or months of experience you should have completed, and then lodge your application. For social worker, they have mentioned that your occupation should be on your list, and you should have at least worked in your occupation for 18 months in Greater Adelaide and 12 months in Outer Regional of South Australia. For 491. Your occupation on obviously for the should be on the list, and you should have at least worked there for 6 months in your nominated occupation. Now let's talk about Tasmania. Again, 2 categories, graduate stream and the working stream. For graduate stream, for 190, you should be there living and studying for 2 years at least. That means 2 years means 92 weeks of registered course. 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐬𝐢𝐳𝐳 registered course should be there. And if I talk about 491, it's pretty easy. Go there, live and study for 1 year. You could qualify for 491. So basically 2 years will give you 190. 1 year will give you 491. So yes, seems easy. Now, If I'm working, then I need to prove that I'm working for 6 months full time, and full time there means 35 hours full time in one in one position or one particular job. And if I'm doing 2 jobs, then 2 part-time jobs, but it has to be in your nominated occupation. But if I'm trying to target 491, then I still have to show 6 months. But then here I do not have to be working in my nominated occupation. So they've got their own occupation list, which is TSO list. So make sure you try and work in that particular occupation, which is there on their list. Western Australia, guys, to be honest, this is the state which love their graduates. So they 99.9% invite the graduates only, people who live and study there. So if you have plans, long-term plans, and if you're an international student and planning to come, and if Western Australia is what you're thinking of, well, you'll definitely have a pathway. Go in Western Australia, live and study for 2 years. You'll definitely have pathway for 190, and also prove that you have got 6 months of part-time employment in your nominated occupation, or 6 months of part-time contract of employment in your nominated occupation. Could be a very good option for international students or students who have just arrived here and or arrived last year, and they are planning to change their career pathways and want to switch to social worker. If you have plans, yes, you can definitely move to Western Australia. Now, guys, with regards to Victoria, I haven't mentioned it, reason being currently that is also closed. For 190, they were expecting you to be working in your nominated occupation for 6 months, and for 491, 3 months. So guys, these are the all states, which is what we have discussed. If you have any queries regarding any of the states, any questions, any doubts, most welcome. As Mechelle has mentioned, social worker could be a very good occupation, because if we talk about the occupation ceiling for 2021, social worker is at 1862, and only 22 places have been filled up till 21st of April 2021. So you might be having very good chance if you are planning to go for this occupation. Let me just tell you, it's a very good occupation, has a career pathway, and also PR option. I mean, what better could you think? I mean, if you love community worker, if you love serving your community, and this is what you're thinking of, and this is what you want to become, gradually you want to be a social worker, and where you can get your PR as well. Even the salary package, average salary 67,000. I don't think so it's bad. As Mechelle mentioned that she would love to be a social worker and maybe try doing this course. Well, once you finish your course, most welcome. I'm happy to answer your queries and show you the career pathways and help you lodging your PR as well, which is what we have discussed, starting from finishing to your course to getting your skill assessment done and lodging your EOI. Then after EOI, you have to wait for your invitation. But then, guys, the golden rule is try to target 491. That will definitely help you in long term, and also getting your invitations very, very easily as compared to 189 and 190. So yeah, that's all for now. Thank you so much. If you have any queries, most welcome. If we have received any of the questions, so happy to take those questions.
Thank you, Prabhjot and Mechelle. Thank you for your lovely session. So I'll just go with the questions one by one. I'll start from the last. There's Anil, who's been asking. Now he's just saying that Dina is trying to log in. Anil, we have just wind up the session. So with Dina, probably she can join the later sessions, or if she has any questions, please ask her to try logging in again. Nusrat Islam, he says that it's a good occupation, but limited chance to get 190. Any comments on that, Prabhjot?
So thank you for the question. See, which is Saru, I have mentioned my during my session as well. See, it's not just social worker. There are so many occupations which might not be even on the long-term list. But then, as I've mentioned, PR is all about planning, to be honest. It's not that I've completed my course, I've come here in Australia, I can get the PR. Well, that might not be the case. If you're lucky enough, yes, you may be able to get, like, boom, you get it. But then see, it's all about planning. See what occupation you're going for. Now that we're discussing social worker, we need to see which state you're targeting, which state you're living in. For example, if you're in New South Wales, which is what I've mentioned, for 190, yes, it was not open. Why I emphasize on 491 is, in case, say for example, today I say, okay, it's there on 190, tomorrow it might not be there on 190, but because of the situation we have, COVID situation, the pandemic situation, why have they kept social worker on regional area is because they want people to move to regional area and they want to develop that area. So most of the regional parts of each and every state, they will have social worker. So that is the benefit of moving to regional area, that you'll have more options with you. In case 190 is not there, well, 491 is definitely there. As I've mentioned, you don't have to be struggling for the points as well, as long as you can fulfill the criteria of the states. So yes, if you're planning for social worker, if 190 is not there, well, target 491 tomorrow. Even if 190 gets open, you see, states won't stop you that if you're in regional, you can't apply 190. You can anyway apply. As I've mentioned, you'll have all three options with you.
Thank you for that, Prabhjot. Neha Singla has a question. I'm studying Masters in Social Work and living in Melbourne. What should I do for PR? Like, which regional area should I move? I've completed 1 year of study now.
Thank you, Neha, for your question. Neha, first thing first, as I've mentioned, Victoria is closed currently. Let's just wait until the financial year, which is going to be in July, and we will know what all states are opening for social worker. But most probably, most of the states will definitely be open for social worker. For now, I would not suggest you to move any of the states. If you're in Victoria, just wait for another 3-4 weeks. Get started with your skill assessment, because that is the first step. At least get started with your skill assessment. I hope the course which you have completed is accredited, and you have also completed 980 hours. If that is the case, just lodge your skill assessment. By the time you complete your skill assessment, the states will be open and we'll know which state is open. I would not recommend you to move to any of the states, because I know that, okay, currently our situation was that it was open in ACT, it was open in New South Wales, but Victoria it was not. So let's just wait for 3-4 weeks. But by that time, do not wait and waste your time. Get started with the skill assessment. Happy to help. You can contact me or our offices in Melbourne as well. Work on your English, gather more points, and yes, if you're planning to move regional, yes, you can definitely move. But then just wait for 3-4 weeks, and let's see what new lists we have.
Sure. Thank you for that, Prabhjot. We have another question. Vimbanaishi Simbada. He says, I'm in regional Queensland and I have permanent work as a social worker. Studied a master's of social work. What are my options? And also he asked, what does PMSOL mean and work for us in Queensland?
Okay, thank you for your question. So currently Queensland is closed and they are inviting us. So PMSO list is basically the priority migration list, and it's more inclined towards the employer sponsor visas. And if you have got the experience, let us know your more details. How much experience do you have? If you are planning to go towards the employer sponsor visas, make sure you have at least 2 years full-time experience for your employer to sponsor you for 482, and at least 3 years of full-time experience for employer to sponsor you for 186 visa. And if you have completed your course, have experience, please also make sure that you've got the skill assessment if you're going to be targeting 186 or 494 visa. For now, let's just wait. As I've mentioned, let's just wait 3-4 weeks and see how it works, and we'll see what Queensland is coming up with.
Yeah, thank you. Kusum has a question. I'm living in Queensland, working as a community support worker. Completed my master's degree in social work from University of the Sunshine Coast. I'm trying hard to get a job. Is NT or New South Wales better state, or should I stay in Queensland? And also, who can sponsor me?
Thank you for the question again. For sponsoring, as I've mentioned, you have to have the experience. If you're working as a community worker but has a course or have done the course as a social worker, that doesn't match. So community worker is altogether a different occupation. Make sure you gather your experience as a social worker if you want to proceed under this pathway and want to choose social work as your career pathway, or to get the PR. But if you also have the the education in the community as well, then obviously that pathway is different to social worker. Community worker is not on the long-term list, it's in the short-term list. Now I'm talking about the social worker. If you have completed your course, get your skill assessment done as soon as possible. If you were working while you were studying, that experience is not counted. But anyway, make sure your course has 980 hours so that you can easily get your skill assessment done. And post-qualification experience would be counted. Queensland, as I've mentioned to Neha as well, it's currently closed. Yes, New South Wales could be a very good option. Even ACT can also be a very good option. But at this stage, to be honest, I would definitely not recommend anyone to move anywhere, because what if you make a move to New South Wales and Queensland opens this occupational list and social worker is there, and you are already working or might be able to get job there. But then yes, wait until mid of July and let's see what states are coming up with. Then you can make a move. New South Wales can also be a good option for 491 regional. Yes, maybe if you get a job working there in few months may help you getting a job. ACT, as I've mentioned, 3 months of living and working, you could be eligible to get the 491.
Thank you for that, Prabhjot. Guys, we're running out of time, so I think we'll just take one or two more questions. And for the remaining questions, please put in through your questions here. We'll definitely be getting in touch with you to answer your questions on a one-to-one basis. And also we have the question and answer session today at 5:30. Please join that and we can answer your questions on one-on-one basis in a more personalized manner. I'll just tell the next question quickly. Chahak has a question. When should we start the skill assessment if we are in a final year of Masters in Social Work?
So Chahat, as soon as you complete your course, that is when you're eligible. Because what is skill assessment? Basically, I say I am doing a course or I have done a course, I want to proceed towards my pathway. This is not student visa, or this is not 485 that you finish your studies and you can simply launch your visa and get the visa. So skill assessment is basically the assessing body. Each and every occupation, they've got their own assessing body. So what they do is, if I say I'm a social worker or I'm a civil engineer, whatever occupation I'm going for, they will assess your degree and or if you've got any experience, and then make sure that yes, the experience or the degree you have completed is highly relevant to the occupation you've chosen. Now, how would they see or check whether your degree is highly relevant to the occupation if you've not even completed your skill assessment? So they will be assessing your degree. So you need to complete your degree. Once you complete your degree, then you will be able to get your skill assessment done and move on to the next step.
Yeah. So just the last question for today, Prabhjot. Does the designation of your job matter? Meaning, if you are a community worker but you are doing social work element, is that not counted? Or what if you get a job as a youth worker or family practitioner?
So see, there are different ways of proving your experience. Sometimes, for example, especially if I talk about, let me give you an example of IT person. I can say I'm working as an analyst, but performing the duties of, for example, developer programmer, well, that I could still, show or justify. But if I'm saying that, or my pay slips, or I'm working as a community worker is altogether a different occupation. You cannot be saying that I've worked as a community worker. Can I claim those points, or can I call myself as a social worker? If that would have been a scenario, then community worker and social worker would have been a same occupation. They are two different occupations. Even the course requirements are different. Even to get or to call yourself or to be graduated as a social worker, community worker, they have different, the education backgrounds as well. Community worker, you can just complete diploma level and call yourself as a community worker, but social worker, you have to be at bachelor's level at least. So there are two different occupations. If you're targeting social worker, please make sure you have a degree at least bachelor's level as a social worker, completed 980 hours, and then proceed as a social worker. But then yes, if you're working as a community worker, you cannot claim points or cannot call yourself as a social worker. The sometimes designation or the occupation, you might be thinking they sound same. They sound same, but they're not. Right? Sometimes I've got so many IT people coming to me. They say, "Oh, I've done IT. I'm a business analyst. Well, when we check their occupation or when we check their transcripts, you're nowhere near to business analyst. IT doesn't mean that you fall or you can be a software engineer, business analyst at the same time. So same way, community and social worker, they are both different.
Thank you, Prabhjot, and thank you, Mechelle, for a wonderful session today. And we're really sorry to everyone for whose questions we could not take. But please rest assured that we'll get back to you for your questions. And also, you can join us in the Q&A session at 5:30 p.m. today. And also, we have another Q&A session tomorrow at 5 p.m. So thank you for joining, guys. We do have shared a feedback link in the chat box. Please make sure, it will be great if you can give feedback to us. We are really looking forward to it. And we have also shared the links for our upcoming sessions. So you can just click on that link and join straight away, whichever session you want to join. Thank you. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.